are Maitri. Now you are listening to Sin World Podcast.
Hi.
Hi, I'm
I'm
Jörg.
AJ. That's Jörg. This is the Sin
Wow.
World Podcast. In a minute, we'll be talking to Nito Souji.
Yes.
He's an indie game developer from Japan,
Right.
who is currently in Georgia, but he's from Japan, and he's got an interesting
Right.
backstory. I'll stop doing
I
that now.
hope you
he's
will
got an interesting
reposition your
backstory
microphone
and-
and not lean forward all the time.
Oh, I was
Okay.
actually, I wasn't leaning forward. I was just being, I was
Okay.
resting my arm on the desk
Whatever.
because
Nice.
it's comfy.
Hey.
But
Yeah.
So we'll be talking to Nito
Awesome.
Souji in a minute.
Yeah.
He's a Japanese game developer who has a really interesting backstory to his own life and the game. So we get a little bit into that in a little bit. Before that, however, there are a few bits of news.
Yeah,
that
and
we might
perhaps
wanna
I
talk
want
about.
to share some stories
So-
in regards to that. Perhaps one thing I should mention is that this interview we actually had in the making since 3 years. The backstory here is that back in 2020
Mhm.
already, we as a staff discussed what topic could we cover that most or if not all other podcasts don't, because you don't want to have the 50th interview about Walter Day or whatever, and then right.
Well, and plus the fact that our podcast is mostly just
Right,
because
right.
we want to
So
talk
one
to
of those
interesting
topics
people.
we're like, we should dig more into what's happening in the Japanese gaming scene. So we started the interview with Dennis Orbay, which is the most known Japanese expert in Germany, and then yeah.
Mhm. And for reference here, for context rather, Japan has been a thing that has intrigued me as far as especially a demo
Right.
scene sort of thing, because Japan is like North America, NTSC. But and there was a C64 released in Japan. There was also the Max machine, which was released in Japan. There were there were localized versions with the Japanese characters on the keys and shit that was put out with their own character ROM and stuff. But you don't see any demos. There is no Japanese demo scene, retro demo scene. Maybe there's probably one for modern stuff, but there isn't much of a
Right.
retro demo scene in Japan. And you would think that there would be, because there is a retro scene in Japan. Retro is pretty
But
popular
that
in
proved
Japan.
difficult. I mean, but apart from that, there's also not much known apart from a few books that have been translated into English about game development in Japan on a greater scale.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that
Right.
we've been interested in the
Right.
Japanese aspect of this, because there isn't much
True.
that runs our
True.
way from it. It's like it's kind of like an isolated pocket of something else that we don't really
Right.
get a chance
Yeah.
to interact with on a daily basis. And there's a lot of I've been seeing my girlfriend Laura is her first computer was not a C64 or an Apple or anything like that. It was a Tomy Tudor, which is a fairly obscure. They only made
And
a
it's also
handful
from
of games
Japan.
for the
Tomy is a Japanese company. Yeah.
Right. Yes. It was the
Mm.
Tomy Puda in Japan. And so last year for her birthday, I tracked one down and I actually got her a Tomy Tudor. And since then, I've been looking for software for it, like the 8 games that were made, the cartridges. And most of the only ones I can find are the Japanese releases, which I assume should work on it because it's NTSC, right? But I haven't actually gotten one. But that's what I see is the Japanese versions of all these games, not the ones that were released here. And again, it was very, very obscure and niche. It didn't really do well. it was kind of a variant on the TI-99, I think.
Texas
A lot of the
Instruments.
same
Okay.
hardware, but it didn't. Yeah, but it didn't have. There's a port in the back for a tape or a disc drive, but
Probably.
I don't think they ever
Okay.
made one. So it's all there's like basic built in and a drawing program built into it, but there's nothing. You
Right,
can't save it on anything. And all the
Right.
games were on cartridge, so it's what do you really do with it? So it didn't really catch on. So this stuff is really obscure, but it's a thing that like there's a market in Japan for these machines, evidently, and that's where you can find the games that are being sold. But as far as 64 or Amiga or other Atari, whatever, you don't really see much from Japan.
Kind of derailed what I was going to go into.
No, I'm giving context because you were saying that we've been trying to get people from
Right.
that area
Right.
to talk to for a while. And I'm
Right.
just giving context as to like why
Right.
why
Exactly.
we were
Yeah. Well,
fascinated by
so
this.
after we spoke to Dennis Albright, which funnily didn't even know the interview would be in English, so he was like, "What would happen if you didn't speak English?" And I'm like, "Well, guess you could." So. Anyway, then it took over 2 years to actually get to the Game Preservation Society in Tokyo, because there was this thing like we only do interviews in French or Japanese, and I was like, we need it in English, so and then we had to wait until the American Damian Rogers actually was allowed back into the country so we could do the interview. And I remember one of his comments was back then, and he said it literally, it's very unlikely that we will ever talk to a real Japanese game developer and in English, and will talk openly about his experience. And what he didn't know is shortly before that interview, I actually had contacted Nito over Kickstarter because I learned that he's working on the Pull Stay game, and I figured that he would be the one unicorn kind of that was different from the other Japanese and talking openly about his bad experiences in Japan regarding his drawing and game development experiences, and that is actually why he decided to learn English and go on a international scale, because he was disappointed with how things in Japan worked. And that's actually a cultural thing I learned a couple of times, that Japanese wouldn't talk a lot about the past or about other stuff than themselves. It's not in the Japanese culture. You don't do that because you are afraid of what other people might think of what you said. And this is why this is this interview that was very unlikely to happen. And on Saturday night he was like, "We can do the interview tomorrow. When do you have time?" And that is why we did it on Monday. So literally 1 day and a half later. That was very spontaneous. Yeah. So that is actually why we did this interview. And as you know, the more unlikely an interview is about to happen, the more I said it wrong, but well, I guess you would say it different. Well, the more unlikely it is, the more motivated I am to make it happen, kind of. Does it make sense? I probably said it wrong, but
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Get the idea, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the background behind it. And I hope when you listen to the interview, you will feel like we did, it was well worth it, and we learned a lot from this interview, and he was very candid and open in his opinions, and it went quite deep, I would say.
Yeah.
So it's a glimpse
Yeah.
in how things work as a Japanese solo dev from an actual Japanese in English. I hope you enjoy. And now, I guess we can jump to the news. Why don't you start?
Yeah. Okay. So I got a couple pieces here. Number one, so we've talked about the okay. I need
Again?
some clarification out there on anyone. So is it Phoenix or Phoenix?
Phoenix.
Because it's the F256K, right? But it's spelled Foenix. And I think a Phoenix is actually like, isn't that PHEO?
Yeah, it's PHEO.
NIX?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
No. I'm sorry. It is.
Yeah,
it
that's
is
why
OE.
it's called
It is
Phoenix,
PHOE.
because
And-
it's like the German Ö, O umlaut sound, like my name, Phoenix.
Well,
Yeah, well,
Phoenix.
in
and then-
English you.
And
yeah.
then this is FOE,
Oh,
which
right.
FOE is foe.
Right.
I've got a Forces of Evil demo behind me.
Okay.
Their abbreviation is foe.
Right.
That I didn't do that on purpose. That's just coincidence. But yeah, so is it Phoenix or Phoenix or Phonics or I don't know. The F256K we've talked about before. It's a retro computer project. There is currently available now an early build of a port of Ultima 3.
Wasn't that one of your games
Exodus.
of the past?
That is the only only
Yeah,
Ultima
I
game
remember
have
you
put.
told me about playing it on second on the in the 128 mode on 2
Yeah, they have
megahertz.
music, yeah.
Because one of you.
Well, no, it is still 40
Exactly.
columns, but you can do it'll play music.
Yeah,
which you don't
because
get on the
of the 2
on the 64
megahertz
version.
mode, it has more resources. Yeah. Extra memory.
Well,
too,
and
yeah.
extra memory
True.
as well. Yeah. So yeah, the Ultima 3 is being ported to the F256K by a guy called Marcus Brenner, or Minstrel
Marcus
Dragon.
Brenner is also known, if I'm not mistaken, from the emulator world. I mean, his name rings a bell, but I don't recall perfectly. Let me check that out really quick.
He's got a couple of things. As far as like he's got a Load Runner port also for the F256. There's a disk transfer program he did for copying, I guess, D64 and G64 files. There's a virtual.
Yeah, like I said, he is big in this
tool.
in this regard. I have used some of his software before. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's pretty known.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, he's got some things out there, but he's working on this port of Ultima 3. So that it looks the images I've seen look pretty good. It's a
here we go. He is a former member of the Vice team. Yeah.
There you go. Okay. All right. Yeah. So the screenshots I've seen of this are pretty solid. It's more detailed graphics than you'd have on the 64 or 128 because you're not constrained by those, the graphic limitations. But it still looks firmly 8-bit. So good on him. We'll put a link to where you can check it out. There's a GitHub page, I believe, or yeah. So that's that. That's one thing. And then the second bit is that okay? I need to make sure that I'm talking the right shit here. Yeah, okay, so Thomas Christoph, who is the guy behind Core i64, I believe. He's got a lot of things going on, amongst which, he's been rebuilding or kind of reverse engineering the old the CMD drives, and they were working on a accelerator a while back that we've talked about a couple of times, and he has just finished his newest project, which is a new Sid Symphony cartridge.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So I mean, it'll work with a 6582 or an 8580. Apparently, it'll also work with the ARM SID and the back SID and the Swin SID and all that other jazz. He's still working on the 3D case, I guess, or the 3D printed case, but the cartridge is ready, and you can get it with. They plan to offer just
as in
just
99% of all those project cases, except the Jam FM.
Right,
this was with the 3D printed case.
Right, so you can. Yeah, so you can do all your soldering and crap like that. Then there's assembled and tested with no SID, so you can get that and add your own. And an assembled and tested with an ARM SID. And they'll go for about without a SID, you're going for about 100, $105, €100. And with the ARM SID, you're looking at about €150 or $160, which is a bit.
Well, considering the SID alone costs €80 or more, depending on what model and in what shape. And
yeah, and I feel I've got two SID FXs, of which they did not cost $100. And I don't think they cost $100. I honestly I don't. I think it was like $50 or something they cost. They were pretty inexpensive. It was not bad at all, and they're great products. And this gives you a second SID. It's in a cartridge, so it's going to use up your port. But I mean, it's if you don't feel like opening up your machine and pulling things out of sockets, and you really want a second SID, then it's an option. And it will have, it'll maintain that compatibility with the original SID Symphony, which was a CMD thing, I believe. So yeah, that's available. That's out. It also has that issue of like the thing I didn't like about the SID Symphony chip, the original SID Symphony, the one that CMD put out, was that you've got this cartridge that goes on there, and it's got an RCA jack on the side, and you got to hook up audio to that jack. It doesn't. The thing, again, we're not endorsed by or sponsored by the SID FX people, but the thing I like about the SID FX is that there is an audio out port. I've got a speaker hooked up to it there. It's a not an RCA plug. It's like a headphone port thing, whatever that is. That gives you stereo.
It's called Cinch.
However, However, if you just use the built-in audio from the C64, you also get both SIDs through that. You don't. You're not limited like that. So yeah, it's there was always that little bit of added annoyance, like, okay, because so say it's back in the 80s or 90s, and I've got my C64 hooked up, right, and I've got my separated lumichroma going to a monitor. That monitor has video in RCA ports and audio in RCA ports. Well, usually just one, just a mono audio in. So I've got the audio coming from the 64 going to that. I need audio somewhere for the audio from this SID in the SID Symphony to go to. So you can either hook that up to something else and then have a weird kind of, your monitor is the left SID and your stereo or TV or something is the right, or you have to have a separated, I ended up having like a little boom box that I used for my audio, and I just plugged it into the RCA ports on the back of that. But I'm just saying that there's a whole other there's a whole other process of getting the audio from this than just sticking it in the computer and going. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you can get the necessary cables and adapters nowadays pretty easy, I guess.
Yes, but I'm like I was saying, we're talking about back. Imagine it's back in the 80s or early 90s. It's not as easy to, especially if you're fairly young, to kind of go out and get this stuff. But even so, now it's like, okay, so I get this. I'm going to need to get extra hardware to work with it. I need to get that splitter so I can kind of reverse split it, into the monitor. It's just, again, it's an additional bit. Not shitting on it or anything. The SID Symphony was a cool thing, and I'm glad that it's brought back, that people can get it if they want. It was a cool device back in the 90s and 80s when it was made. And so yeah, I don't dislike it, but it's there's just more of a obstacle course to get it working than other
I'm
stuff
just seeing, looking at cartridges. The final cartridge is actually available on Polyplay. And that's funny because when you talk about the final cartridge, 99.9% people mean the final cartridge 3. Is it worth it to get the final cartridge? I mean, that's a unicorn. That's like, holy crap, I never saw one on a photo even. And there it is. And if I look on Google final cartridge, I only see the final cartridge 3. So it must be very basic compared to the final cartridge 3. There's almost no info on this one. Wow.
What were you asking?
Yeah,
the final cartridge.
The original final cartridge, not the 3 one, because 99.9% everybody talks about the final cartridge 3, but on Polyplay, I will send you a link. I accidentally found while googling for the Symphony cartridge that they actually sell the original final cartridge. The original. Like, holy shit, I've never seen that ever on the internet. And if I try to Google for what's different between the third rendition, no info. Holy cow. That's like a unicorn. I mean... really, nobody talks about the final cartridge, the original. Wow.
Yeah, it's one of those things I'm a Super Snapshot guy myself.
But that wasn't a thing it wasn't such a big thing in Europe. The Super Snapshot. Yeah.
Right. But the thing is that the definitive Super Snapshot is V5. Rarely does anyone ever talk about anything other than Super Snapshot V5. That's the one to have. There are other ones. There in just the Snapshot cartridge. There's something that was predated it that was before the Super Snapshot cartridge, but you never hear about it. And I don't know. I've seen a couple for sale. I don't know that. Like I don't know what you would
Other
do with
than
it.
saying I have something nobody else has.
Right? Yeah. If you're a collector, sure. But if not, then
I mean, it's not expensive. It's only 20. It's
Here's mine
just
right here.
25. It's just
V5.
It's just 25 euros. It's not really that expensive.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. Now, yeah, I guess again for
I am a
for
collector,
collector, sure,
which is
that
a problem.
makes sense. But yeah, so that
Wow.
that makes sense then to have
Yeah,
that. But
I
if
would
you're not,
like
then
I would like to know what
if
is the
I'm
difference, but I guess the difference must be huge if nobody talks about it, right?
yeah, it's more of a there's a lot of things that were fixed, especially like again, early versions of stuff. There's stuff that gets fixed, and then the new version supersedes it. So yeah, what version? Final Cartridge
Everybody
3
talks
is
about
the one
that.
that
Nobody talks about
is
the
the
2
most.
or the 1. I
Yeah,
never
right,
even
right.
saw a photo of the final cartridge, and that's the first photo I ever saw. I never knew that it had a blue case.
Right. So the differences between the original that I'm seeing is that the first one has a 16K ROM, whereas Final Cartridge 3 has a
Oh, where did you
64K
find
ROM.
it? Where did you find the info?
The features. I just looked up Final Cartridge versus Final Cartridge
Didn't
3.
show any.
The features. The first one has a basic fast loader, a freezer, and other utilities. The 3 has an enhanced fast loader, a freezer, a monitor, and a whole bunch of utilities. And it is more compatible with newer hardware.
Okay. Can you link?
Like I guess the original one.
That?
Yeah.
Yeah, and here that ChatGPT says it's one of the most iconic C64 cartridges to do it to its wide feature set and user friendliness, and that is why my grandfather used Final Cartridge 3 because he liked the graphical user interface. He actually had a 1351 mouse connected to it because he liked it, and I preferred more like the Action Replay 6 because you had the F keys and you didn't have a graphical user interface, so you could quickly like blam 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 and your stuff is loaded. But he preferred using a mouse and having the disc in the graphical user interface and stuff. And it was like I need quick response. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Right. I'm sending you the link to the article that
wow.
that talks
and it
about
says the early Final cartridges were stepping stones, but not nearly as well supported or capable. Okay, so they are really rare. Oh my god. You know what? I'm getting one. It's even low on stock, so it's like now or never. Wow.
Looks like there wasn't a Final Cartridge 2 either. It was like the Final Cartridge 1, then there was the Final Cartridge Plus, then the Final Cartridge 3.
And made a plus one instead.
And then there was also a VCF 280, which was an Italian clone. There was the Final Cartridge 3 Plus. That was where they added something so it would work with Vice.
Okay, here's the thing. You can get it in a DHL small package or in a DHL package normal size with full tracking for €2 more. I guess for such a rare item, I should pay €2 more for better shipping, right? Probably.
Probably.
On the other hand, it's not my problem, it's a seller's issue.
Yeah. Sure.
Holy cow. I'm super stoked. Good that we talked about cartridges. I was like, oh, let's check it out. I was like, holy crap, they really made that. Holy cow. Huh. Just give me a second.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. So I'm not going PayPal because PayPal is plus 2.99%. Which is funny because, it's originally illegal to do that. But as a company, you can actually get an exception from the terms of services. Okay, so I'm not doing that. All right. So let's say cut this out. So I know when I say cut, I will cut this out.
Okay.
This is 34 minutes in the recording. So I guess I will use credit card for once because I'm not willing to pay 3% PayPal fees on top. That's not my thing. So I rather use credit card. And I almost always use PayPal, but not this one. And Google Pay the same. Google Pay also 2.99% on top. Are you kidding me? No way. Well, credit card it is. Okay. If I go order now. Okay. Fortunately, my credit card is virtual, so I can get it from my iPhone wallet. Because we are modern,
Yes.
And the thing is, if an order is denied, it actually tells you the reason why, which most credit cards companies don't tell you. Most are like payment denied, and you have no idea why. Okay, here we go. Card holder is me. That's a spontaneous. As you said, I'm the one who owns everything. Now I have one piece more that is part of history nobody speaks about. I could make a review out of that. Literally, because it would be unique. What? It says something went wrong? Okay. Huh. That's weird. Okay. Let me try something else. Okay. If I use if I use Molly, whatever that is, never heard of that payment order, then it gives me different option, and one of them is actually paying by invoice. Hey, why not doing that? Then I pay by invoice, even better.
Yeah.
Okay. I hate it actually. Back in the day, it was pretty easy. You had like, pay by credit card, pay by PayPal, pay by invoice, or cash on delivery, or pay in advance over bank wire transfer. And now it's like, use Molly, use whatever, and then when you use another payment service, that just then you can see what you actually will pay with. Super weird. All right. Okay. Order placed. Okay. Thanks for that. I just wanted that. It will be amazing. Perhaps I will make a hardware review out of it. This could be a hot potato. I mean, I've never even saw one in existence. All right. So you were talking about the symphony and that a new clone was made. Okay.
Yeah. So that's available at CoreI64.com or org or whatever it is. So we'll put a link to all that in the description below.
And that's all your news, or you got more? Ooh, I interrupted you right there, but hey, I mean, a rare piece of electronics that nobody ever heard of before for 25 euros, that's actually a steal. I mean, have you ever looked what those multifunctional cartridges cost normally? 80, 100, more, you never know.
Yeah, this thing, I got this because when I was getting back into the 64 stuff. I didn't have my snapshot anymore, so I went and found this, and this was like, I'm gonna say this is like $75.
It's not cheap.
Which
cheap.
That's not, for an old cartridge, it's not cheap.
And 25 euros, that's like, for something that is rarely known to be existing, you can't go much wrong with that,
I lucked out too. This has the because the Super Snapshot 5 came with two different. One was like a 16K RAM, I think, or an 8K, and the other one was like 32. For like for storing memory in and stuff, and it used it for like copying, large files and disks and whatnot. And this one, originally you could get it, and then if it came with like the smaller ROM, you could send it back in to
but now
LMS,
I guess you can do it yourself because the ROM.
Well, this one had it. This one was already upgraded. This one already had the bigger RAM in it. And nowadays I still use Super Snapshot, but the ROM lives in the Ultimate 1541 over there, which I found out shortly after I started using it that also has the upgraded RAM. So yeah, that can do everything that this can do.
So this will be very interesting. The hardest part will be tracking down the manual, probably.
Yeah. No, actually, I think that website I sent you, which is rr.c64.org, that has a whole final cartridge category in manuals.
That's actually from the same guy who did the retro. No, not the retro. The
yeah.
Retro replay.
Yes,
exactly. The retro replay. Yeah.
Which is an updated version of the
Action Replay 6.
Action Replay.
Yeah,
Yeah, Action Replay. Yeah, I've seen Final Cartridge 1.
All right,
English,
but it says
German,
English PDF
Italian
manually
manual.
or Final
That's all on there.
Cartridge 2. So there is a Final Cartridge 2. It says missing. Oh, it says missing. It says missing. So no,
Yeah.
no cakes there. Okay.
Well, again, the Final Cartridge 2 was pretty much the Final Cartridge Plus,
But
I
it
believe.
says manual missing, and that's what I want. I want the manual, actually. Yeah, it says.
But you want it for the original Final Cartridge.
English PDF manuals missing
it's
or Final Cartridge 1. It says in the missing section. It says missing.
I got it right here.
Wait, you got it right there, but it says missing in the link you sent me. That's weird. Why does it say missing on the same page you sent? Okay.
If you go in the link that I sent you, there is on the right there, you've got that little sidebar, and it says manual, see binary section, and then check Final Cartridge category for even more. And in that, you'll see all these different PDFs.
So it's actually not missing, but he didn't update the article, I guess.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's got Final Cartridge 1, Danish, English, German, Italian, Polish, and then Final Cartridge 2, nice. Polish.
Oh yeah, that looks very rough. Yeah. That looks like very, very rough. Okay, nice.
It's interesting, the Polish manual here, it does say Final Cartridge 2. So maybe there was one, but I don't see, there's only a Polish manual, so maybe it was only released in some
of the world, yeah. Amazing, yeah, thank you. Yeah. I should copy those links for later. Can you actually copy those? Yes, you can. Nice. Wow. Final Cartridge, the original. Okay, well, that means news from me, right? Yeah. So, first bits of news is Nacro announced RoboCop Rogue City Unfinished Business. And the interesting thing here is the game is not a DLC. It's actually its own game. We reported about Rogue City. Rogue City.
Rouge. I think that's a color.
Rouge. Yeah, anyway. The original Rogue City was released end of 2023 and was a huge success because it was done by a AA studio and had the same quality like a AAA game, and it was considered by fans and the press as the best RoboCop game in ages. And it was also one of the first games, and I mentioned that also in the interview with Nito, it was one of the first games to have Unreal Engine 5, so very, very advanced on the technical side. Also means you need a GPU that has DirectX 12 support on a high technical revision level, right? So I suppose looking at the trailer, which we will link to, it's using the same engine, so it's pretty amazing. I also saw Peter Weller is again the voice actor of RoboCop, so you get the original experience from the movie series and obviously from the cartoons of RoboCop. So pretty neat. And they say,
did he do did Peter Weller do the cartoons
too? I have no idea
too?
if Peter Weller did the cartoons too. Yeah,
I thought you just I thought you just said
but
that
I
he
never
did
looked
the
it up
ones in the
actually.
cartoons.
It's actually a good question. RoboCop cartoon. It was called animated TV series, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
Nope.
No, it was
Yeah,
Robert Boxdale.
yeah, yeah. Okay, not
Yeah,
Peter Weller.
right.
Yeah,
Didn't think so.
yeah.
It seems
And
like
they made also a successor, not very famous. RoboCop Alpha Command, and that one
yeah.
was David Sobolov.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. So
The funny thing with voice actors is that you'll be like, this guy, like all right, so the voice is done by this dude, and it's like, okay, and it's like I have no idea who that is. However, and then you'll find out that that guy was like the voice in like 40 different things that you've seen. Like you totally know who that guy is. You just don't know that that's an actual that's the guy
right.
doing the voice. It's funny because you look through these and it's like, okay, who did Robert Boxdale did the voice of RoboCop in the cartoon. And then it's like you look at other stuff he's done and it's like, he was Mouser number 2 and additional voices in the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. He he did, he was in Counter-Strike. He was in, Tales from the Crypt Keeper, Monster
Ooh.
Force, X-Men the animated series. The Magic School Bus. The Hunt for, I don't know what that is.
Interestingly,
there's a lot of things that I've never heard
for
of before.
video and computer games, however, they really want to go for the actual actor's voice, not the voice actor's voice. So they really wanted Peter Weller, and fortunately he
Right.
said yes. So yeah, despite
Yeah,
RoboCop has a metallic, modified voice, you could still tell the difference between Peter Weller and somebody else. So I guess.
Yeah. I also find it hilarious that they made an animated series, a cartoon series for children.
It's one of
based
the
upon
most
RoboCop,
violent things
which
ever. I know.
I was going to say, I don't know if any of
I
you
did.
guys have actually watched RoboCop, but RoboCop is
Not
not
at all.
a children's movie, and is some serious over the top. I mean, it's random violence and body horror and just everything that you can imagine in a it was directed by Paul Verhoeven,
Yeah,
who is legendary for some truly like, I mean, it's RoboCop is satire. It's actually like if you watch it, it is like, it's actually really like good, smart satire.
and it's one of the few. It's one of the few.
Even though it just seems
where at the beginning the successors of the RoboCop actually kill some executives of OCP, which are the bad guys. So even the bad guys are decimated by their own creations, which is totally unseen, Like, holy crap, they can't control their own creations. Yeah. So it's not your typical villain against good guy. It's like oh, we killed some employees on the way.
right. Yeah. But yeah, it's just funny. It strikes me funny that they made a children's show out of it when it's
Well, I
when
mean,
it is not. It's not a
it
children's
was the
show.
logical step after this Robocop 3 was 12 or older, because they cut off all the violence to make it child friendly, to broaden the audience.
Sure.
And that is also
Right. There's quite a few things, like there's some things that can be adapted to a children's thing that is not like Pee-wee's Playhouse is a children's show that aired in the late 80s, and it is based on the stand-up routine of Paul Rubens, who was Pee-wee Herman. And if you've ever seen his stand-up, whilst it masquerades as a children's TV show, it's
another example would be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles outside of the US. They just renamed it to Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. Exactly. Suddenly they are not called Ninja Turtles but Hero Turtles, and boom, can be child friendly outside of the US.
Yeah.
Just a slight differentiation in the name. Yeah.
Right.
But this appreciation is still TMNT. despite it's not TMNT outside of US. But it's like we are not changing that N for H in the abbreviation. Why would we do that? So anyway, yeah. So and also in when they released RoboCop in 20 I think it was 2010 or 2008, I don't remember, this reboot of RoboCop in the movies. It's one of my favorites, actually, because it's actually focusing more on the family aspect, which none of the original RoboCops did, because they were like, Murphy died for everybody else except the police. Yes, it's a 2010 film. I just had a look. It's I think it was let's see, was it 2010? RoboCop. Why can't I remember what year it was? Yeah, the reboot.
Reboot?
What year was it? 2014. Okay, 2014.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
11 years
recent.
ago.
Yeah.
Paul Verhoeven didn't like it. I did. I think it closed the gap of what if. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
One of the best things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Was Paul Verhoeven? Nope. Was he part of it, or
no? It was directed by
probably not.
Jose Padilla.
Jose Padilla. Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
I liked it. I really liked it. Yeah.
It's one of those deals where it's like the original RoboCop again was satire, and it was so. I mean, it is such a Verhoeven movie that it's difficult for me to separate it from that. To be like, okay, here's a different thing, a different take on the same thing, because it's like there is aside from just the guy is a robot, and now a cop and whatnot, and aside from just that aspect of it, there is the morality play and all the other stuff in the background that contributes to it. And when you basically remake it with that little grain of, this is this is the plot. He was injured, now he's a robot, blah blah blah, but without the same kind of, it doesn't have that kind of same satirical oomph that the original had. Now it's just a movie about the thing. It's like that's not the point of the movie. Was this concept, and now you're taking the plot and making a movie about that particular thing with kind of not really hitting on the same beats as it's just it's. I haven't seen all of it. I've seen bits and pieces. It's a different approach to it.
You should watch it. It's really very good.
Um,
It wasn't so successful in the movie theaters, however. I know it because I watched it in the
Right.
smallest showroom in the cinema in my city. On the very top of the building.
Right.
Like the smallest thing where you normally see the B movies, not the very successful ones,
Right. Yeah, and then so yeah, they canceled the sequel to it because it didn't do that well, which again I can get. Although there's been another movie talked about that they were going to do that with I think Neil Blomkamp, who I think we just talked about him in the last podcast. Yes, because he was oh God, fucking Game Informer.
We talked about that.
Yeah, he's the dude that founded the company that took over Game Informer.
Right.
We were just talking about that.
Yeah.
Just a couple of days ago on that intro. Yeah, so he was attached to direct another RoboCop reboot. But I think he's not anymore. I don't know off the top of my head, but I think that Amazon has been talking about making a TV series now. And I just, again, it's like, the original RoboCop was a movie about things, okay? RoboCop, the character of RoboCop and all that stuff was a metaphor and a delivery system for talking about these concepts that we want to talk about. When you take the concepts out and just say, this character, this robot man is cool, let's make a movie about him, or let's make a TV show, it kind of ruins the concept of the original thing.
Well, as I said, I liked the new take on the concept, not ruining it, but expanding it, because it shows it from a different viewpoint, That's because it focuses on the family dynamic that was originally always left out. He didn't want to confront his family. And in this movie, he actually did. And it adds so much more to the story. It's amazing. Okay. That's the reason why. Yeah.
Okay. So, how did we get on this? We are way off topic.
Anyway, speaking about movies, a new Walter Day movie is coming out from the makers of King of Kong, the movie that you have to watch soon because we are wanting to talk to those guys, so you should finally watch the movie. And the successor movie is called Arcades and Love Songs, The Ballad of Walter Day. Because his original plan was to leave the arcade world, didn't happen, and concentrate on making music as a career only. Didn't happen either. So he kept doing both instead of leaving arcades for making songs. So that's coming out soon.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I
I
gotta
have to.
sit down
It's
and watch
probably
that.
not expensive. I think it's DVD only. There's not even a Blu-ray or HD version of the movie because it's from 2007. So should be
Hmm.
pretty easy to watch. Pretty cheap to watch also.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I want to point out real quick. I know
Hmm.
it's not originally on my list of news, but I will add it right now because I
Hmm.
just got an email about it. So Andrew Fisher, our very own Andrew Fisher, is writing another book
But
called
I
64
already mentioned
Dreams. It's
that
a
last
follow-up
time
to
in the
his.
last news section.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I'm aware. I'm aware. Yes,
You
because I
did.
brought that to your attention.
No,
What
actually, you're wrong. I brought
my
it to your
news is
attention
not that.
because I asked you first, isn't that the same book as his last one? And you were like, it's
No,
about
no, no.
nightmares. Yeah.
I said, oh damn. No, I said, oh damn. Look, he's got another one. And then you said,
So
well, isn't it the same thing? I was like, no, it's
I
not. It's a
remembered
different
wrong.
book.
I
Mm.
remembered wrong. Yeah.
But yeah, but the news isn't that it's a thing. The news is that as of we're recording this, it is April 29th. The
Hmm.
campaign goes till May 8th. I don't.
So that means
This
we
might
have
be
to
out
be
after
quicker
that.
than that.
I don't really know. But currently, a couple of days into this, they were trying to raise a little over $8,000. They are currently
Yeah,
at
of course. It's
34,000.
always overfunded. Chris Wilkins is a
Yes,
monster when it comes to kickstarting books.
and
I
Andrew is a monster when
know.
it comes
That
to
is
writing.
why that is why they always call him
I have
the
the
professor.
yeah, I have his 64 Nightmares book, and it is bitchin'. It is excellent quality. It is well written. It is well, the images and layout. Everything is amazing about it. So if there is still a chance to if this is up before the 8th, go and back it so you can get a copy because they are awesome.
When we did the second interview where you weren't part of with Stefano Arnold, um, um, Andrew was representing you instead, and it was like I don't need to be here
Hmm.
because Stefano and
Yeah,
Andrew were geeking out about the gaming history of the 80s and how the industry was. It was like I'm not
yeah,
needed here.
yeah.
Why would I be in this interview? They went off like crazy. I was like, holy
Yeah.
crap. I mean, people tell me I'm an expert, but he's like 5 times more into it than even I am. And people call me
Yeah. Andrew knows what's up.
an expert in computer games and history and stuff.
Hmm.
But he knows a lot more. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you can, if it's still going,
Awesome.
then don't
Awesome.
go and back
Awesome.
it because it's awesome.
Well,
All right, carry on. Continue, sir.
I saw 2 videos recently that we should refer to by the YouTube channel Retro's Future. And Retro Future released 2 videos on Game Kiosk for Game Boys. And he found one that was beaten up and almost destroyed. And he restored it. Like the cabin, like the woodwork, and the electronics. And it's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Well, a little
Okay.
history.
Yeah.
When Toys R Us opened in the early 90s in the close to Langen, where I used to go into my first school ever, we actually went to Toys R Us for a day trip, and I actually played on a Game Boy and on a Mega Drive and on Game Gears in the store. So it actually makes me really made me reliving some of my early childish memories. And up until 2007, I regularly went to Toys R Us because for me it was a kid in the candy store. I bought all my Game Boy games, all my NES games, all my Super Nintendo games, and even my Commodore 64 5.25 inch DD discs from Toys R Us. So, yeah. And even my grandfather bought his Commodore 64 empty discs from Toys R Us. So so my family regularly went to Toys R Us buying those things. And for the listeners who don't know, anywhere else, despite Canada, Toys R Us isn't a thing anymore. In Germany, was actually taken over by Smithy's Toys. I don't know about the US if any other brand took them over.
No, they kind of disappeared and then they came back. I don't know. They were coming back. I remember seeing that. I don't know if they actually did or if it was just a
because
different,
from my experience only Canada survived with their stores.
I'm looking now. I'm from. They used to be. They were headquartered in New Jersey. I lived kind of close to where their headquarters were. I remember seeing that. Liquidation
bankruptcy. Oh, okay. The company emerged from bankruptcy as True Kids. So there are a new brand now called True Kids. Okay. And one of those brands True Kids owns is Toys R Us. And babies are us, and kids are us, and Crefery's Toy Box, whoever that is. So
the
that
website
means
was relaunched.
In August 2021 and 2022, they reopened Toys R Us in new locations. So that means they are back, but under a different parent company. Yeah. So they are no longer independent, but now they are owned by True Kids Incorporated. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so they've got locations in 9 states: California, Georgia, New Jersey, Illinois, Nevada, Louisiana, New York, Maryland, and Missouri. And the stores are all located within Macy's stores.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
So they have a partnership with Macy's.
Like I said, for Germany, they allow Smith Toys, which I think last time I looked it up, it was an Irish company, if I'm not mistaken. But if I'm not mistaken, let's see, there are still an online store. Let me check it out. Toys R Us.
Last I saw, the online store would send you to Target.
Yeah, but okay. I
No, it's Macy's.com/Toys R Us.
In Germany, Toys R Us is also closed on the website, so no online store. So
yeah, there is a website, but if you want to buy, I think it takes you to the Macy's site to buy, or maybe not. I don't know. Damn, I don't know.
Yeah. So as I said,
yeah, I don't know.
In Germany, they are now all Smithy's Toys superstores. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think
cool.
I think they are Irish, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So it's a bit like the same thing that happened to Joey's Pizza, I think, the name was, it became Domino's. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, exactly. Smithy's Toys is the biggest branch for toys and baby articles in Europe. And they are headquartered in Galway, Ireland. Right. Yeah. So,
Okay,
you are lucky
sure.
you have your
Yep,
Toys R
okay.
Us bags. Well, basically, let's be honest. It's the same thing, but with a different brand name.
Yeah. For all the times I go to the toy store.
Yeah, well, you don't do it anymore. Yeah, I remember. And as I said, the last time I did was 2007 to buy Crisis, which is an 18 plus game, which was funny to buy an adults only PC game in a toy store.
Yeah.
So,
I remember exactly the last time I was at a toy. I can tell you exactly when I was last at a Toys R
because?
Us. I know this because I rarely ever went to Toys R Us. Toys R Us for my family when I was younger, when I was a kid. Toys R Us was like the expensive,
Okay.
like the high end toy store. So we didn't go there often. It was the we had it was called there was a store closer to us that was like Toys and Sports Warehouse. It was called. I've got vague recollections of it. I keep thinking like I'd like to go and see if it's still there because I remember going there as a kid. The last time that I went to an actual Toys R Us was, I'm going to say, 2003. I went and I bought a Hamtaro stuffy for somebody.
And that was exclusive
really
to Toys R Us?
And it was the only place.
Ooh.
It was the only place that I knew of that you could get it. Yes. So I went.
Germany
to
is a different beast than America, and I experience that every time we talk. A lot of times, for Germany, there were Toys R Us or nothing. It's not like America where you could say, okay, if you don't want to go to a toy store, go to somewhere else. It was Toys R Us. It's not like you could go anywhere else.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, and we always had like different tiers. There was like the fancy store, and then like when we went clothes shopping, we'd go to like Bradley's, which doesn't even exist anymore. There is no Bradley's, but it's like there was, there were different things. And you had like Kmart, which is pretty, low end, and then like a step below Kmart was Bradley's. That's where we would go. There are all these little department stores and crap that you go to back in the day that don't exist
pre-internet.
Because why?
The mindset was like, why would I go somewhere else if I know Toys R Us has everything you could think of for games, and that includes plushies and board games, card games, electronic games. Everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I know we got some C64 stuff at Toys R Us.
Okay, that was before my time.
A little section there for software. I want to say it was the early '90s. Wasn't even that wasn't even that long ago. It wasn't the '80s. It was that that key punch software budget.
We don't have that anymore.
$1.50 game disc.
Commodore 64, the only thing you could still get it. Toys R Us for it was.
I can tell you the last time.
Was BASF empty discs, and we had two brands.
Yeah, I can tell you the last time I bought an actual brand new game for the 64 too, in a store. It was the Wile E. It was like the Roadrunner and Coyote video game. Awful fucking game, terrible game.
That's why I don't know it.
But it was yeah, and it was at like Electronics Boutique in the mall. There was a very small
Okay.
C64 section still there at the time. This would have been probably like
Okay.
92, 93 maybe. And I was like, holy shit, there's still C64 stuff. And I had a couple of bucks in my pocket, and there was this Roadrunner game, and I was like, I'm getting a game because I never see this stuff anymore out in the world. So I got that and brought it home and was immediately disappointed. But I mean, that's the way it worked a lot of times. But yeah, I remember that specifically too. Like the last time I actually went out and bought a brand new shrink wrap game in a store. I've bought new games since then because things have come out.
Right.
I got Sam's Journey, stuff like that. But
Right.
in stores, an actual game on a shelf in a wrapper and everything, like brandly new, was that freaking Roadrunner game.
That's quite a jump from Walter Day news movie to Toys R Us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
off the rails.
other news.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I have two more news, and there is
okay.
There is a community-driven version of the free-to-play game Arctic Combat because the server has been shut down. And as at warterritory.net, some fans of the game, well, they made a new server for it, so now you can play it again. So that's quite nice. I always like when players, gamers are taking matters to their own hand. I mean, it's interesting because even if you go to the old pages for Command and Conquer playing multiplayer on the internet, they actually got EA to automatically forward the old domains to the new ones. I'm like, holy crap, yeah. And my last bit of news is Kickstarter announced that they will soon come out with their own pledge manager, which is about time.
You sent me something about that.
Because let's face it, the third-party pledge manager is like the biggest market for Kickstarter projects. Everybody is using something. Nobody is using Kickstarter alone for managing the backer pledges and shipping and all that, because it's just ass.
Right.
And now they have a page where you can actually sign up and get an email to be notified when the pledge measure from Kickstarter is finally coming out. And it's quite funny that a company like Kickstarter would make a crowdfunding platform. Like, how you manage your shipping and backers afterwards is your own issue.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
That's cool.
And that's actually my news.
Okay. Well, there we go. Now that we've babbled for far longer than...
It happened the same last time.
We should have.
It took 1 hour and 45 minutes to upload the video version of that.
Yeah, that's what people are here for.
Actually. Are you here for the intro of the news, or are you here for the guests?
From what I've heard from people that I've spoken to about this, we have two types of listener or watcher, which is that these either you skip the intro and go straight to the interview, or you listen to the intro and don't bother with the guest,
right? Or are generally people?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, most likely.
All
but
guests.
Right, yes. Generally, their people are either just listening to the intros, the news bits, or they're just listening to the interview. But I haven't seen much of an overlap where people are like, well, sometimes I listen to it, sometimes I don't. It's usually like it's pretty evenly cut down there. Either they listen to this or they listen to the interview parts.
Really,
but rarely together.
It's a shame though.
Uh-huh.
It's a good podcast.
Yeah, I enjoy it. Yes.
Well, and by the way, if you are watching the video version on YouTube, hit like and subscribe, and thumbs up,
Oh,
thumbs
shit,
up.
yeah, we keep
and,
forgetting to do that.
And
Yes.
subscribe. It's free. Yeah, and ring the bell icon. Exactly.
Ding dong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the last 3 times.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
The last 3
So you can
times
be
I
notified when
said
we do a
that
thing.
because I had this last interview bits, and I mentioned that there. Yeah. But it's funnier if you are on it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Like and subscribe and comment and rate us on
iTunes? Yeah, well, it's called
iTunes?
Apple Podcasts nowadays.
iTunes. Apple Podcasts. That's right. Yeah. That's yeah. Which it's funny because I'm using the Mac and I don't know what the damn thing's called. I don't listen to podcasts.
I don't
on the Mac,
either.
Sorry.
I'm just creating one.
I listen on my.
Right.
I listen on my phone.
Yeah.
But yeah, but not to us because I can't stand hearing myself.
How about when you really you can't stand hearing yourself? I got used to it.
I cannot stand hearing my own voice. No.
I mean, you are editing the audio lots of times,
I don't like it.
so you must
yes.
cope with that somehow.
Yeah, I try. One of the things that I need to keep doing, that I need to do rather, is I need to enunciate. I need to talk slower.
I can still
and
understand
louder.
you, but barely because we are talking since 25 years.
I'm understandable. I'm not like I'm not like unable to be understood. It's just I just tend to talk fast.
Really?
Which is just me.
Ooh.
And I tend to mumble. So I need to talk like I am right now, which is kind of, like I'm projecting diaphragm. So to get it, and to talk a little bit slower and to stop the and that I do, or and the
I mean,
I can't even think.
I mean,
the like.
I
say
had
like
this a couple of times. Sometimes where you weren't with me, like one of those Reporters Without Borders interviews, when I spoke to the to one of those responsible for, Russia and the other companies from the Far East, she usually does the interviews in French, and then I was loading up the interview in Descript, and I was like, if I remove all the filler words, then there would be no complete sentence anymore. So I decided to not do it.
Right. Yeah. I know when I was editing in the early days when I edited the audio and video, I would cut out some of the. I would edit out some of the little rambly bits just to make it, and like the silent. If there's like a pause or something, I would get rid of that as well, just to kind of make it more fluid. As we've gotten along with this, I think we've gotten to the point now where we don't really edit the.
That's true.
We don't do much editing at all. We've gotten good to the point where we don't stand there saying nothing for.
But there's still an option in Descript where you can say shortened word gaps. Yeah, so it shortens the gaps between words.
But we've gotten better at coming up with things to say on the fly to keep it moving. So yeah, so for the most part, where during the interviews, there are some times when there will be a bit of a gap when like our guest will finish talking, and then like we'll look at each other through the thing, like you gonna start or should I start? And then there's like a bit of a gap between.
Well, it didn't happen this time because he had a lot of things to
but it has
tell us,
happened,
and we only had 1 hour, so
yeah,
yeah,
right. But it has happened where we're looking at each other through the camera, being like, who's gonna start this? Who's going first? And but at this point, it doesn't happen very often. And if it does, it's like, oh, whatever. Who cares? I'm beyond the point of giving a damn. if our
Right.
if our tiny
Well,
errors creep in.
well,
It
there
happens.
are a few interviews, and this was also one where I'm super excited to have this interview because I knew this is like
Hmm.
very special to me. Wow. I'm
Yes.
probably more of the emotional type from the two of us. I'm always like, man, we got this. Ah.
If it's something I'm passionate about, if it's something that I'm interested in, then yes, I will be as jazzed. Like I was jazzed with
That
the Ron
was
Gilbert of it
that was
all.
big.
I was jazzed with there's plenty Charles Martinet. I was pretty jazzed about. In fact, I got pretty
I
pissed off when I realized I was
To
using the
this
wrong
day,
microphone.
I don't think it was a big deal.
It wasn't a big deal.
Mm.
It was a big deal to me at the time because I was like, I sound shitty. It's like dude's on the
No, he's
phone.
not. He was. Yeah, you sounded like you were on the phone. Really? No, he was not. He
No.
was on
He
an
was on the phone.
iPad
Like
tablet.
he's a
That is why he
he was
got
an,
no video, because back in the
oh
day,
okay.
iPhones
Okay.
and iPad versions of Skype didn't have video. That is why we only have an audio version. So you are remembering that
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
He was on an iPad, and
Well,
I had
either
to
way.
send him um support links to knowledge base entries to tell him how to use Skype on an
Right.
iPad, because he got it 2 weeks
My
before the
point was
interview and he had no idea how to operate an iPad. I was like, holy
yeah.
god.
My point is that he wasn't using professional
Well, he
recording
was
equipment. He wasn't on
using
like a
he
mic.
was using one
He
of
was using a
those
thing.
Apple headphones.
Right,
Earpods.
which is basically like being on a phone. Yeah, right. Which again, basically like being on a phone. They don't sound great.
They are still sounding a bit.
I've used them. If we're doing a podcast and I don't have a microphone near me, I would rather use the built-in mic in the laptop than the things in those headphones, because it's not good. And every time you move slightly,
That's
it brushes
true.
against your
That's
shirt.
true.
It's
That's true.
it's not. They are not ideal. But either way, yeah. I was, my assertion was like I'm concerned that I don't sound good because I ended up using the built-in mic on my laptop when he's using an iPad with Apple headphones. Like he doesn't sound any better than any of
Well,
us. So
I had
what's
my
it matter?
Meteor microphone back then.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I had my
You were.
I think I was using a Snowball, but I just for some reason it didn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't selected. But yeah, there are ones, plenty of them that I've gotten jazzed about. If I am interested in the topic, and that's a big thing in that. Again, for if I don't know if this is going to make
depends
it
on
into
what
the
you
actual
say.
podcast
I don't
or
know
not.
what you're going to say.
But yeah, there is a so this is a podcast ostensibly based on retro.
Most of the
computing
time, not always, and people actually
the
criticize us
scene,
for it.
yes, and the scene and right, yes, and
Right.
and the scene and gaming in general. Okay, a lot of gaming stuff. I would love to be a gamer. It's one of those things where it's like I would love to sit down and spend hours playing a game, having fun. I have not.
Well,
ever
you
been able
are a
to
lot
do.
of times in
So
No Man's Sky. I see it every time when you load up your Steam. I'm like,
yes,
holy crap, he is on No Man's
my
Sky
brother
again.
and I.
So
Yeah, sometimes in the middle of the night, my brother and
Right.
I will futz around on No Man's Sky and just goof around. But it's not. But that isn't even really. I guess it's gaming, but it's like that's. But sitting down to do this, a lot of these things, like I'm interested in, but I just it's not something that I do. So it's difficult to really kind of be like, this is super jazz because I haven't played the games, I haven't done the thing, um, but there are plenty of things that I'm looking back at some of the ones. The C64 OS, I was jazzed about that. That was
which
fascinating to me.
on the other hand didn't
Um,
interest me personally so much, but that it is, yeah, there it is.
Right, right. Right. Yep. Or the Wick 64. I suggested that, and I don't think I made it to that one.
Wick
I
64.
missed that one. Wick 64.
Did we do one of about that?
It's a Wi-Fi interface. We did that in May of last year.
But was that?
I
Oh
wasn't-
yeah,
I
yeah,
wasn't here
true,
for
true,
this.
true.
This
Yeah,
was
you
during
pulled
my,
out in the last second because of an emergency doctor appointment. Exactly.
Oh no. No. That was in my
Okay.
my months in the woods. When I missed most of them from early last
okay.
year, like the first 6 months of last year. There's.
But did we
there's
really
stuff
do
like that
one
that
about Wick
that
64?
plenty of stuff that I'm fascinated by. Wick, WIC, yeah. May 30th.
Okay, yeah.
Was the release.
That's the same one I had in mind, right?
And so there is stuff that I get.
Oh yeah,
jazzed
the
about.
Wick C64 was it? Wick C64.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or VI C64. Yeah. Hardy Ulendal. I know.
Right,
I remember. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or people that I just like that we talk to, like when we talked to Min Becker a couple of times. I just happen to like them, so it's like, oh cool, we get to talk to people that I like. That I get jazzed about. Or a couple of times we had Lily Stitches on, one for burlesque, one for cosplay. I like talking. She's cool, so awesome. I like this. Or Sven, when Sven was on, I like Sven, so cool. We get to talk to people we get to talk to our friends. Like that's the cool part.
True.
When we get to talk to our friends on this.
True.
I get real jazzed.
Yeah,
about that.
I'm a bit different in the aspect that I always try to look at the bigger picture. So, like.
Mm-hmm. Or Jerry Ellsworth. Jerry Ellsworth was an
but
awesome
Jerry
one.
Ellsworth
I was
is
super
a bit
jazzed
different
about that.
because she's also a friend of mine. Down to the
right.
Right.
Well, like I said, when we get to talk to our friends, yeah.
The thing is, Min Becker, Sven Fössing, I brought them in because they were Germans. But Jerry Ellsworth, I know as long as I know you. Actually, I know her a bit earlier than I know you. I still have her valid phone number. So, I mean, like, and if I tell people nowadays I have the phone number of Jerry Ellsworth, they are actually like, no shitting. I'm like, yeah, it's true. So that's actually the exception here, because I know her before I've known you, and you know her because she's American and also in the retro scene.
Yeah,
that's the difference here. But but my approach to guests is a bit like, what's the thing everybody talks about, or what's the thing nobody talks about, or how does it fit in the narrative, like the Japanese stuff. Like I was like, Nito Souji fits perfectly into talk about stuff going on in Japan. That is how I see it.
Yeah.
And
yes. And since we're mentioning him, we should probably get over to the interview.
Before we end this, and the reason why I'm mostly jazzed about a particular guest is not so much that we are friends, but in this case that it's an interview probably no other podcast would have if we don't do it. The exclusivity of the interview, that's also something that really makes me jazzed about it. Or another example, the iPhone guy, Scotty Allen from Strange Parts. How many other interviews did you hear before we interviewed him? Not a lot. So there are some people that are hard to come by, and that motivates me to make the interview happen, Yeah. So, right. Right.
All
And there are other people like Trominal that I annoyed for 5 years to make the interview happen. Yeah. Anyway, we should move to Georgia, the country, not the state,
Mhm.
and talk to
The country,
Nito.
not the state. Yes.
All right. Ooh. Okay.
All right.
Today we have another guest, and today we actually have Nito Souji, and you are a solo developer
Yes.
for the game Pulse Day, and
Yes.
and interestingly, thing is, you came in the picture when I first saw an interview from you in 2020 on a YouTube channel that has nothing to do with gaming or whatsoever, but was about Japanese and how they are doing their social lives. And I found it. I found your Kickstarter, unfortunately, 2 years too late. But
Oh.
anyway, I got a license for your game on Steam when it entered early access, and I thought this would be a perfect topic to talk about it, because there is not much chance to talk to a Japanese developer about developing games, and the special thing. I guess you can explain it a bit later during the conversation, but what I learned is that in the past we had guests on our podcast about Japanese and video games, and usually those people were like learning Japanese, moving to Japan, sometimes even marry a Japanese woman, and you did the other way around. You actually learned English.
Yeah.
I've learned. You learned English because you disagreed with how things were going on in the Japanese society, especially in the work culture, and you actually moved from Japan to Georgia.
Yeah.
So, and I thought this was very unique, and that is why I thought we should talk today. So perhaps if you like, you can start with your beginnings. How did it end up the way it is right now?
So I made couple videos already about talking about my Hikikomori life and why. One of this video is that actually got quite a lot of views, and hope so you can find information, more detailed information there, but
Right,
in
right. I
short-
saw the videos,
in
but
short-
perhaps you can give us a quick roundup,
Okay.
you know?
Thank you.
So,
In short, so when I graduated from college, so I couldn't land a good job. So what I wanted to do. So I kind of spent time in Tokyo doing odd jobs, but eventually I returned to my hometown, and then staying in my apartment, family's apartment. That's when it my Hikikomori life started at that point. So at that time, I didn't intend to become Hikikomori or anything, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to create my artworks, something interesting. Then I want to live on my creation. I want to basically sell my artworks to the world. Then I want to live on that revenue. So that's the whole my struggle and through my through my life, and then it's a bit impressive, but I started trying to draw something, but it didn't work. So eventually I realized that I find that indie games are getting very popular in the West. So that's about 10 years ago. So, 10 years ago. At that time, in Japan, we had some indie gaming scene there. But it's kinda not so versatile. So, visual novels were quite popular at that time, but it's not so. We can't say there is a lot of market there. But on the other hand, so Steam, I found Steam at that time. Steam was not popular in Japan at all, and not even not known to well to Japanese people at that time. But so I found in Steam there it was so actually so this first indie gaming boom like Super Meat Boys, like or this classic indie games it's happening, Braid and such. Then so I found that so okay, this so maybe I can live on Steam making my game. Steam might be my last resort. Then
Really?
I started.
Interesting. So you saw Steam as a last resort. Okay.
Yeah. I
Oh.
thought that way. Exactly. At that time.
Yeah, I've seen in one of your videos you mentioned that you actually tried it with a publisher in Japan at first, but you were you weren't.
Yeah, I didn't try Japanese publisher. Actually, there was quite a very few Japanese publishers at that time. I contacted the Western publisher. One publisher.
Okay, it was a Western publisher. Okay, my bad.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Okay. And you weren't satisfied with what they would offer, and you decided, okay, I'm going on my own as a solo dev.
Yeah. So basically, so I didn't find that so possibility. My future in Japanese doujin. Doujin is a kind of indie, means indie in Japan. And
Okay.
I didn't find so hope in Japanese this market at that time. Then, on the other hand, meanwhile, I found a lot of possibility on Steam. Then, I started to run game development. Then, 10 years later.
Wow, that's really something. And here's actually the thing. When you talk to people, for example, of a different generation, like my mom, they would actually think is something like, why would he need to learn German? Don't they learn English? I wanted to say, don't they learn English at school? So, is it so that if I may ask, that in the Japanese schooling system you don't learn English by default?
No. Actually, in Japan, so English is a very important subject to learn in school. But so we typically start learning English from junior high school or even more grade school. Then throughout college, I guess. So we Japanese actually had had education in English, but the focus focus in Japanese English education, the focus is on kinda for なんつうの entering good school, entering
Okay.
good college is the point of learning English. It's not the so they are not aiming to study English to communicate
Really?
with
Okay.
foreign people. It's not the so maybe that's it should be still the problem of English
Right.
education.
So
in
that
Japan.
means you learn English, but not for the sake of being able to communicate with foreigners.
Yes.
Okay. So you decided in Japan I don't have a market for my ideas, so I'm improving my English so I can go global. That's quite interesting. So you're actually doing the reverse from the stories we usually hear. That's quite interesting. Now may I ask? I also learned that you moved to Georgia, and
Yeah.
I wonder now in Georgia. Can you actually use your English? I mean, wouldn't you need to learn a third language?
And we're talking about the country Georgia, not the state.
Exactly, the country
Yes.
Georgia. Yeah, right. And it's not like they are speaking English over there every day, right? So it's actually you actually probably have to learn a third language like Georgian.
Yeah, no, actually, so when I came to Georgia, I was still developing Prusté, and I had been quite busy working on Prusté until the final full launch of Prusté. So until this, so yeah, February じゃなくて March. Until this March, so I had been quite busy, and actually I kept continue my Hikikomori life in Georgia. It was a shame, but yeah. So
Okay.
I didn't have much opportunity to talk with Georgian people. So basically, so only occasion is so talking with my landlord and such.
I see. Yeah, interesting. So perhaps let me ask you. You said that you didn't see a future in the Japanese gaming market for Pulse Day. Is that because defense tower games is not a genre that Japanese people enjoy? Or
Yeah, at that time, so yeah, 10 years ago, actually, so Japanese Steam user was quite small. So smaller than Korean gamers and even smaller than Taiwanese Steam users. So you can see Steam users by so their language. So how many people are using which languages? You can see that Steam stats. So I found at that time, so Japanese users barely used Steam at that 10 years ago. So then, so I should focus on English speaking Steam users at that time. So that's the situation.
Interesting. So now the thing is, you also started your gaming project with Kickstarter, but what I learned is actually that it wasn't smooth sailing. You kind of had
That's right.
up and downs. So perhaps tell us a bit about your milestones. What was the point where you were like, okay, I can go on with this? What were the stepping stones from Yeah. Your milestones, I guess, is the more proper word.
So yeah, so actually, so yeah. So I made my Steam page, but it didn't get a lot of wish list at that time. So then I thought I needed to do something to get people's attention. Then so yeah. So at that time why I picked Hikikomori Shutdown as my game's theme is that I thought my situation as a Hikikomori, Japanese Hikikomori was kind of hopefully could be a hook to people. Then I thought being a Hikikomori could be only thing I could talk about. So it might be only the unique selling point.
Really? Okay.
Then I thought I should sell my hikomoriness to people. I posted on Reddit. Firstly, I posted on Japan Life, and I wanted to make a video about my hikomori life. And
just to point that out, that is actually the Japanese phrase for what we describe in English as a shut-in. So
yes,
a person
I think it goes a little bit beyond a shut-in. I think that's closer to like a hermit kind of, yeah.
I'm not quite sure how exchangeable, but in Japan we basically say call hikikomori people who are staying in their rooms and people avoid to go out as much as possible. That's the kind of people we call hikikomori. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it's quite refreshing for me that you talk so open about your experience. I mean, I did some interviews with other Japanese people in the past, also from the historical standpoint, and I often heard that Japanese people are afraid of, forgetting things or talking openly about stuff. So I'm quite happy that you are so open about your experiences.
Yeah. So that's kinda I was forced to do that because if Blue Stay was started as a successful game from the get-go, I might not talk about myself this much. But that's how it ended up. Yeah, basically.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, also interesting is, despite it's a classical tower defense game, it has actually some very Japanese-like touches, like overacting, super attacks and whatsoever.
I like the fact that most of the enemies are just like people that are checking up on you, just making sure you're okay.
Yeah, I think perhaps I misunderstood it, but I think the name Pull Stay is probably a play on the situation of like you want to stay in your room, but people are trying to pull you out of it. Could that be?
That's a great interpretation. But it's a kinda just a direct translation of hikikomori. Yeah.
Okay.
Hiki means kinda pull, and komori means kinda staying in.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I put more meaning to the title of the game.
Yeah, but that's a beautiful interpretation, I guess.
So in the
I'm
future,
impressed.
if people ask you about that, you can tell them this explanation. I
Yeah.
don't take credit for it. So
Yeah, that's great.
yeah, I always try to dig into the reasons behind things. That's just me, because I'm really interested in well, how to say, causalities and connections between stuff. So quite interesting. So may I ask you? I don't know if I may ask you, but you mentioned, as we said at the beginning of the interview, you actually were disappointed with the Japanese work culture.
Yeah.
Can you perhaps, well, tell us a bit about what you didn't like?
So I'm kind of afraid of to generalize too much, but
Well,
typically, Japanese society is quite collectivism driven society, and they have strong collectivism mentality in Japan. I'm not so into this kind of mindset from my childhood, and simply, I don't like such situation. But I think in Japan, you might find a niche place, you can be more individualistic. But in my case, I couldn't land such a situation. So then, I kinda brute force me to try finding such a situation. And that's a struggle. That's my struggle history. My hikikomori history, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite good that you found out for yourself, like, okay, this situation is not what I like. I should try something different, and it's really good. I think I wish more people would do that. It's quite interesting because, as I said, when I talk to foreigners about the Japanese culture, or video games mostly are, how to say, romanizing it, like as being very special and very positive. But I guess it's like always in life, romanticizing. Thank you, AJ.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is basically what my impression always was. It's good to have some, how to say, sober point of view from somebody who actually is originating in that culture, because obviously humans tend to always want what they don't have. So it's quite interesting. Well, so let me ask you perhaps a bit more about the game. Interesting is you decided to go for early access, but also, in contrast to many other Steam games, you actually managed to finish it quite quickly. I mean, considering that I have Steam games in my library that are early access since 5 years, 6 years or something, and then they seem to never leave early access. So you must be quite proud, despite it took longer than you originally planned that you actually finished the game. I think you originally planned to finish it in 1 or 2 years.
So yeah, so I thought, original plan was I wanted to finish first day within 3 years.
3 years, okay.
That's I thought it's a more realistic estimation, but actually it was not. Yeah.
So how long did it take in hindsight?
Yeah, it took 7 years in
Wow.
total.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Here's another statement, because I watched the last video yesterday, and one of your statements at the end was that yet you are disappointed with your overall sales figure. But we just released earlier today, another interview with a developer from USA who is focusing on point-and-click adventures. And in his interview, he said, as a solo dev, it's always good to have more than one games, because when you start your second or your third game, then people actually start looking at your past games. Right. So you actually generate sales because people are interested in your other games that you did before. So perhaps see it from this point of view. Just my thought, when you make your second and your third, and you actually have a portfolio of a couple of games, you actually might profit from this financially, because you always have a backlog of games that people can access and buy, you know, or on Steam making bundles, for example. Yeah, like you know, like saying, okay, the Nito Japanese gaming bundle or whatever, you know. So just to give you a bit of an of a positive outlook for the future, because you really sounded very disappointed by the result. I know you said, like, originally I was planning to be all positive in this video, but unfortunately it's not what I projected as sales figures.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So originally I wanted to use first day sales to fund my next game. Yeah, that's my hope. But yeah, it was a bit difficult at this point. But so I agree with you that we, especially as a solo dev, it's so important to keep making games and build your catalog so that you can build trust. So establish trust and your brand among people. So I want to continue making it.
Okay, so it's not as sour as it sounded in the end. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That's right.
Yeah. I actually learned also you did another game before Pulse Day.
Yes.
I don't recall what it was. Was it something like a mafia restaurant manager or something?
Yeah, that's a game called Apocalypse Ramen. So it's
okay.
Yeah,
Apocalypse Ramen, okay.
Player will run a ramen shop in zombie apocalypse Tokyo.
Okay. Wow.
I thought it's a fun idea, but unfortunately, game loop was not fun enough for me. So,
right.
I dropped it. Then I reused that many aspects, beat 'em up mechanics. Then changed to Pulse Day. Yeah, reuse many things.
So you actually never finished that game?
Yes. Yes. So I didn't finish Apocalypse.
Right. Okay. So you integrated some ideas into your Pulse Day game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I also want to point out that despite what sales may be on on Steam, there are no negative reviews on this game. Every
Right,
review on this
yes.
game is a recommended on this game, which I don't think I've ever seen that before.
Yeah, I'm so thankful to my followers. It might be a bit, so I think it's so kind of people's, なんやろな。Sorry, I just appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, you are speechless. I can't understand that. I would also be speechless, you know. I mean, if my livelihood depends on one product, I would also be very nervous about it. I totally understand, you know.
Yeah.
But did you consider going also on other distribution channels, like, you know, GOG, for example, Good Old Games,
Oh.
or many gamers actually prefer having DRM-free versions, you know, so like on GOG or itch.io.
So speaking of GOG, I think you need to contact GOG and you need approval from
Right,
GOG.
yeah. You need approval from CD Projekt Red. Yeah.
Yes, so I haven't contacted them yet.
Perhaps you should.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Maybe.
actually interesting that you mention it, because, you know, often when people when developer release games on Steam, one of the first threads is like, do you plan to make a GOG release? And I remember for the adventure game Unusual Findings, the developer of Argentina actually said that they weren't approved. So you actually can be denied from having your game on GOG. It's not 100% your own decision as a developer if you get listed or not. So GOG is actually more selective than Steam when it comes to allowing more games to their catalog, which is interesting, I think. Yeah. But anyway, itch.io is another option that probably should work. You know, everybody and his dog has his game on itch.io.
Yeah. So it depends on your kind of expectation of yourselves. So if it's too small to. If your expectation is too small, it doesn't make sense in terms of sales figure. Yeah. That's a hard reality, sad reality. Yeah. So you need to keep update your games, you know. So when you update the game, you need to update every platform. So
that's also true. That's also true.
Easy.
Yeah, but we mentioned this in another interview also, that for some games people don't understand that at some point the game is finished. You know, if you don't have anything to improve in a game anymore, you can't really, you know, push an update if there's nothing to update for, you know. So I always like to take retro games as an example, like a Mega Drive game, you know. Like, what is there to update? It's a Mega Drive game running on a PC. There's not like yay, you know. But of course, what you can, as a developer on Pulse Day, what you can of course do is what a lot of developers are doing is like thinking about DLC content, you know.
Yeah.
You know, alternative storyline, new characters, new game mechanics, or more levels, whatever, you know.
Yeah. So personally, I did quite everything I wanted to implement in Stay at this moment. So
That's
it's a
that's the wrong
difficult.
that's the wrong answer. You have to say there were so much things that I couldn't include, and this is why we have a DLC here. That is how you have to sell it to people. You have to say like there's so much I couldn't include, and that is why I made a DLC. You're welcome. This is
Yeah. So basically, at this moment, so yeah, I want to make new games after 7 years of dedication of to one game. So yeah, I wanted to
right, yeah. Must be
start a
very
fresh thing.
exhausting. Yeah, like oh come on, not again. You know. Yeah. I totally
Yeah.
get that. Can you talk about your plans? Do you have something in mind as your future game?
Yeah, so that's a very important point so yeah. So honestly, I don't have a concrete plan at this concrete next game plan at this moment. I can't very so vague idea I have, but so I think I need to learn Steam market and study other games at this moment. So kinda there. So it's said among indie game devs that so you definitely need to make games that actual Steam users care about. So yeah, if you want to sell your game. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
to be honest, Pulse Day is my only tower defense game I have in my library.
That's thank you so much.
So I mean,
yeah.
I don't know how it is for AJ, but usually I'm not going like, oh, I could play a tower defense game today, you know?
Generally, no,
Yeah.
that's not my
Yeah. So it's not the typical genre that I'm usually attracted to. So what makes it very attracting, actually, and you mentioned it also, is actually your story and your personality. That's the whole package, actually.
And the humor. You know, it's a hilarious game. I mean,
Exactly.
the amount of
Yeah. Not only in the game, but also in your video. I was like, oh my god, I would feel so cringe if I was the person in the video, but you don't take yourself too important. So you have a very good sense of humor, and that is something people like, I guess, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you.
You're welcome, no problem, you know. I mean, yeah, you know, yeah, just to give you my opinion. So I was like, okay, I'm playing a tower defense game. I'm not only playing a tower defense game, but I'm playing a tower defense game from Nito, especially, and that is actually, you know, because you are the creator, and I liked your story, and I thought like, you as a person, you deserve the support to succeed, and that was my background, you know. So you know, so I mean, you can get millions of Star Wars games or racing games or the next Need for Speed or whatsoever, but having a game from somebody like you with that background is pretty unique, and and that's actually a unique selling point, as you said yourself. Your USP, right?
Oh, thank you.
Oh, welcome. And then that is also So sorry,
that's
AJ?
a big.
I was gonna say
That's a big reason that I'm doing a YouTube channel. So yeah, I want to try making a connection.
Right.
Connection with people, and so they're trying to convincing them to try my game.
Yeah, so let's talk about the development of the game a little bit, because
Right.
you are the sole developer of this.
Yes.
So did you kind of do everything on this, or did you have other people come in to help with graphics or anything like that, or is it just all all you.
So yeah, basically, so yeah, I started making so everything but the sound. So sound aspect I so used so purchase asset or custom made songs and such. So sound effects and music I don't make them. But so other aspects, so basically I started making everything. So 3D assets and animations and such. But so when game development, so it took too long to me. So then I started using asset, so 3D, so so it was a pachinko parlor in the game. So I used asset. So I purchased the pachinko parlor asset and used it in the game. But yeah, every characters are made by me, and so yeah. So pretty much so quite I would say other than sound assets, so I would say more than 80-90%, more than 90% I made so in per se. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's a
But
substantial
it's
amount
not
of work.
I want to recommend to do that. Actually, it took too much time. So
You wouldn't recommend it, okay?
Yeah,
yes.
that's a lot of that's got to be a lot of work.
I mean, 7 years they must
I mean,
come.
that's-
They must come from that. Actually, yeah.
Yeah,
I see.
so
Yeah. On the other hand, if you are using too much stuff that is already there, I learned a while ago those games also have a name. They are called asset flippers. So
yeah.
when you basically use every graphic that you can find in the Unity store, in the asset store, and make a
Yeah.
game out of it, and then it's called asset flipping, and then it's like, I made a game, but basically I only took what was already available. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure so how other game devs are actually doing, but so I would say so many games are actually using some sort of assets purchased in these stores, especially for 3D games right now. But yeah,
Right.
I guess from Asia, the most known example would be Flappy Bird, which basically uses the tubes and the level graphics from Super Mario Bros. And then put a bird in it, and then make a game out of it, and then was like, wow, okay. So, apart from the bird animation and the physics, everything was taken from a different game. So, yeah, that's quite interesting. Now the question is, are you actually planning to port your game to other platforms?
yeah, actually, so yeah, that's so I'm currently I can't say talk about details, but
You don't have
I'm
to.
I'm talking with a publisher right now to port prostate consoles. So hopefully it will happen.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's actually an interesting take. You said you took 7 years for developing the game. Isn't that a problem that at some point the game engine and the graphics are outdated? I guess you had to update that to stay recent during development.
Yeah, actually, so that's an interesting point, and actually it happened. So while developing prostate, so I'm using Unreal Engine, and when I started prostate, it was Unreal Engine 4, but so it's updated to Unreal Engine 5 right now. So it's I don't know, 2 years or 3 years ago. So update to Unreal Engine 5 officially. But so it's a bit embarrassing, but I'm still using Unreal Engine 4 right now for full stay. So I'm not quite sure. So it's a quite a lot of fundamental shift in the game engine. So at this moment I don't have courage to update PlayStation to Unreal Engine 5 right now. So still using Unreal Engine 4.
Courage. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not an easy task. It's not like flipping a switch.
So it's not actually. So many things changed. So
Yeah, I mean, you're actually right. I remember when in December 2023, when RoboCop Roach City was released, one of the early games on the Unreal 5 engine, people were complaining, why do I have to have DirectX 12 on a certain feature level? And then they were like, because Unreal Engine 5 requires that, you know? And people were so pissed, like, why can't you make it working in DirectX 11? Because Unreal Engine 5 doesn't allow you. And people don't understand that. People, they are generally pissed about, you know, certain things you as a developer have no control over. Yeah. So I totally understand that you are hesitant of saying, okay, I'm upgrading it to Unreal Engine 5. And I mean, it looks nice, it works nice. Why would you bother, right?
Yeah. Hopefully, people think so. Thank you.
I mean, even during early access, I never had the case where the game would crash on me or, you know, or perform badly. So I have to say it ran pretty smooth. And considering my setup is 13 years old, I was quite happy with how it performed. Yeah.
Oh, that's great to hear that. Yeah, thank you.
And you are very lucky, as AJ said earlier. People are very favorable of your game. When I look at other games and the community in the Steam forums, they are like, no German translation, no buy. No, I'm like, oh my god, you know. People are pissed about the craziest thing, you know. So it's very, very good, actually.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you are not disappointed by disappointed though, but you have to say that you are not too frustrated to say, okay, I'm out of this. So you are pursuing your dream, and that's important.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Awesome. Yeah. So you said you cannot talk a bit about it, but can you tell us a bit? Do you have any other plans besides, as I said, porting Pulse Day on other platforms? Do you have other future plans? As you said earlier, you didn't have luck with your drawings. Are you perhaps considering continuing with that, or is that I'm developing games and that's it, no other plans?
Okay. So yeah. Actually, so yeah. After this, so it's because of my financial situation, I'm planning to go back to Japan. That's a huge thing at this moment for me. But so other than that, so yeah, I just want to make next game. So that's
Okay.
Also, I want to make YouTube videos. So continue making YouTube videos. That's all at this moment I want to do right now.
So, you're right. You're not only a developer, you're also an influencer in this way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
YouTube.
it's interesting. Yeah, quite nice.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So the question for me left to ask you is, where can people find you and your stuff?
So I want to people check my YouTube channel. That's a big one. And so I have X, but so I don't check it much. So どうしようかな。So also I have a Discord, but so なんやろ、どうするべきかな。So should I say so post so write address or something?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Where should I type some?
Well, I mean, you can say it, you can type it. On the bottom, there is the chat icon where you can actually type.
Yeah, I'm all right.
So I'd like to share my YouTube channel. Is that so?
Okay.
Can you check search my name Nito Souji or YouTube?
Right.
So
Yeah, we will link to everything in the podcast description. No worries about it. I mean, I know all your social channels because I had to track you down, obviously, to get in contact with you. So I know where your stuff is linked at.
So,
interesting. Yeah. Do you also plan to continue your developing streams on? I think it was on Twitch where you streamed your developing. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm live streaming every Wednesday. And on YouTube and Twitch. So I'm doing a multi live streaming. So
Interesting. Awesome.
You can contact me. So.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, wonderful. All right. Thanks a lot.
Right. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.